In summer of 2010, I went to Russia for a variety of reasons. And even though it was absolutely chaotic from start to finish, and I hated it while I was there, I'm very glad that I went because it gave me a number of stories. Um, I'll go ahead and just start at the beginning and see where it goes. So, the first bit of fun that I had with going to Russia is that I had a layover in New York City, as a matter of fact. And for some stupid reason, it took far too long. So my flight going to Moscow, where I was going to connect from Moscow to St. Petersburg, was late. Of course, since we were stuck on the plane while this delay happened, I couldn't actually reach anybody to tell them about this. So when I got to Moscow, I had to try and figure out how to work the phone system, which is not as easy as it sounds. For starters, the phones work on a card system. You have to buy a card first, you have to load the card up at the kiosk, and then you have to go and find a phone and figure out what numbers to push. And since I had only had one semester of Russian, like I knew the alphabet, I knew how to say, hi, how are you, and my name is, and that was about it. It was a bad situation. After about 20 minutes of trying to figure out how to work the dang phone, some fellow American who was sitting in the airport and happened to have a cell phone took pity on me and decided to give me his cell phone so that I could call the person in charge. I did so, and I let them know that my flight was delayed and that I would be reaching St. Petersburg at 9 o'clock at night or something. By this time I had been awake for 48 hours. I was dead tired. No idea what was going on. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning back in Colorado, the person I had to call. And they were not terribly coherent. I was not terribly coherent. I'm really not sure how things worked out, but message got through, I hung up, I thanked the American, and went on my way. Unfortunately, it didn't work out quite that easily. I got to the airport, and nobody was there to pick me up. It's now 9 o'clock at night in Russia. Had been awake for something like 52 hours. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was exhausted, I was crying, there was nobody there. I found two women at a kiosk who knew English enough to talk to this poor crying American who was clearly at the end of her limits. I had a printout of the address that I was supposed to go to, and that was it. And I was just like, please God help me! So they were nice enough to call me a cab. They explained to the taxi driver that I didn't speak English, that I needed to get to this address, and go. The taxi driver, in his infinite wisdom, decided to drop me off at the back of the apartment complex where I was going to stay. In Russia, apartment complexes are built kind of with a courtyard in the middle. And while there are doors from the courtyard into the apartment complex, they're constantly locked. Their back door, it was like 4'5". It didn't even fit me. So I'm exhausted, I'm crying, I'm banging at the back door of this apartment complex in Russia at 9 o'clock at night. I'm sure everyone thought that I was an absolute psycho. Finally, the lady that I was supposed to stay with, I was supposed to stay with a single woman. I thought, this is fantastic. I'm not big on kids. I'm not big on lots of people. Single woman, I'm a single woman. We can do this. Awesome. She finally heard me knocking. She came down, opened the door, and gave me shit for being at the back door of the apartment complex. I'm like, lady, I just got here, okay? I'm dead asleep. I have no idea what's going on. Give me a break. So she brings me in, she brings me upstairs. I'm on the 3rd floor. I'm hauling this huge-ass suitcase. She shows me the bedroom that I'm staying in, and she's like, all right, well, I'm going on vacation. My single nephew, who will be staying with you while you're here, he'll be here shortly, and I'll give him the key because I only have one key, so you guys are going to have to coordinate that when you go to school and stuff. Yay! I don't even care, woman, just show me the bed and get out of my face. I'm going to pass out for the next long time. Unfortunately, that meant that in the morning, now I had to deal with this single nephew who had the only key to the apartment. I wake up, and he's, standing outside my door. It was very creepy. Standing outside my door, and he's like, you want breakfast? I'm like, sure, I've eaten airline food for the last 50-some-odd hours. Sure, I'll just have, a scrambled egg and toast. Which I didn't know how to say in Russian. I barely knew how to say breakfast in Russian, but he understood some English, so we communicated somehow. So he's like, okay, I make you scrambled egg, it's fine. And I was thinking an egg, a little bit of milk, mix it up, cook it, you're done. No, I don't know if you've ever been to those hotels that do fancy continental breakfast, and then they give you this egg cake. It's solid fluff, if that's possible. He took 3 eggs and like a cup of milk and mixed it all together and gave me this wad of egg fluff and a piece of bread. Like, not even toast, bread. Like, okay, thanks. You know, I just don't, I'll fix my own breakfast from now on. Thank you very much. I'm good. So he's like, okay, that's no problem. You know, I still had a day until school started, so I was like, you know, I'll just walk around on my own and see if I can figure out where I'm going. I found a map. Yay, map. And I spent the day wandering around, came back home, passed out again because I was still exhausted. And in the morning, there he was, standing outside my door again. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? This is kind of creepy. He's like, you want breakfast? I make you breakfast. I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. I'll pass on breakfast this morning because I didn't want him making me another egg cake. So he's like, all right, well, you need to go to school, so we go to school. You want to take metro or do you want to walk? I'm like, well, you know, how far is it? Because if it's not far, I'll just walk. I'm not big on metros and public transportation in general, much less in a country that I don't know how to speak the language. Yay! So it's like, oh, it's not far. We walk. So I put on my backpack and I get all my stuff together and I'm starving because I haven't had breakfast because I don't want egg cake. And we start walking. And after literally 40 minutes, I'm like, how much further is this? And he's like, oh, not far. I'm like, no. Give me, like, definite. How much farther is not far? He's like, oh, maybe another half hour is fine. I'm like, dude, really? An hour and a half walking is not far to you? Because it's far to me and I'm starving, and when I get starving, I'm going to kill you. So we finally get there, and this is St. Petersburg in June, where it's like 80 degrees, and St. Petersburg, if you don't know the geography, is 5 feet above sea level on a bay. The humidity is insane. I was drenched with sweat. I was tired, I was hungry, not in a good mood. So we finally get to the school, and he's like, okay, I will be home today. When you get home, tomorrow we get you cell phone and we figure out key. I'm like, oh, fantastic. So I make it through the school day without killing anyone. Yay! And when I get home, there's nobody home. You know, and my school had taken us out to get a cell phone. So I had a Russian cell phone. I didn't know how to use it, mind you, but I had a Russian cell phone. I didn't know his number, so I just, like, sat there on the sidewalk in St. Petersburg for like an hour until he decided to come home. Drunk, mind you, because Sergei was his name. Sergei was always drunk. Russian men, who knows? So after an hour of sitting there like, hi, I'm a crazy American wearing jeans and sneakers, which no woman in Russia wears, sitting on the sidewalk for an hour. Yay! Finally gets home. He's like, you need dinner? I'm like, no, I figured out where the grocery store is right down the road. Do not ever talk to me about food again. Ever. Done. And from then on, like, he apparently would go out drinking every night and come home at 7 o'clock in the morning and expect to make me breakfast. I'm like, thank you? But I'm good. I finally figured out that I needed to get up at 6:30 and make myself breakfast, so that by the time he dragged himself home drunk, I could be like, no, I already made breakfast, you're good, go to sleep. And after about 2 weeks, we finally figured out how to get another key so that I didn't have to wait for him and call him back and forth. Because in giving him my cell phone number, this was a super bad idea, he decided that I was now his buddy. And so he could call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, he knew that I didn't go out. He knew that I had school and homework and cultural expeditions, which was another shit situation of the Russian trip. But anyway, you know, and then bed. But no, he would call me at 2 o'clock in the morning and be like, my friend here, he say that Americans are all crazy. You're going to let him say that? I'm like, yep, click. Why would you call someone who's dead asleep to ask them what your drunken friend... What? Anyway, don't talk to me, Sergei, please! So, we finally figured that out. Key situation figured out, cell phone situation figured out, breakfast situation figured out, don't talk to me figured out. I get my way through the 6 weeks that I was in Russia, which was terrible. Like, the school that we went through, it was a new school. This was the first year of going through them. And the school that we had gone through previously never gave homework. So they were like, all right, load on the cultural expeditions, you know, because if you don't have homework, you can afford 4 hours every night to go to a museum or play or ballet. I'm so sick of ballets. You know, you can afford to do that. Well, the new school figured that you were in Russia to learn Russian. A logical idea. So they assigned like 3 hours of homework every night. And somehow it never really coordinated that other people figured out that we were doing other things. So we had all of this work to do and all of these stupid cultural expeditions to do. And it was horrible. And they completely forgot to feed us. Like, the only meal that we had as a given was lunch at the school. Dinner was usually like try and figure out what we're going to eat as a group in this cultural expedition. And breakfast, you were on your own. I figured out where the grocery store was. I figured out where the eggs were. And I figured out how to light the stupid oven without setting myself on fire, so I was good for breakfast. But, like, they never fed us. We went on this one expedition, and I swear, we walked for 3 hours through this garden, some garden somewhere in Russia. And we get to a stopping point, and Artemy, our guide for all of this, is like, well, we don't really have time to stop for lunch. And there isn't really anywhere around here that does lunch, so get yourself some ice cream and we keep walking. We've got maybe another 2 hours to go. I'm like, dude, really? You're gonna have us eat ice cream as dinner? I found out where the local McDonald's was, which, McDonald's in Russian, that's another story. I mean, anyway. And as much as it shames me to say it, I ate McDonald's for most of the time that I was in Russia, because it was the only place you could find calories. It's terrible. Anyway, all of that finally aside, I lived through 6 weeks, mostly by crying a lot and just hating life in general. But I lived through 6 weeks. I still didn't have any idea what the hell I was doing, but, you know, I seemed to blend in. Like, people stopped me on the streets to ask me for directions, which was really weird because, you know, having no grasp of the language, I was just like, map? Us? Where are you going? And it usually worked. Russians don't really have that great, like, there aren't a whole lot of immigrants to Russia, so they're not really good with figuring out accents, which is foreign to me. I love accents. I love languages. I love accents. So, you know, it all works for me. So when I look at them and, like, I would go to McDonald's and I'd be like, you know, "Я хочу cheeseburger," because that's how you say it in Russian. Cheeseburger и большой fry, which is large fry. Большой is large. And the person behind the desk would look at me and be like, "Malinky fry?" Which is small fry. Bolshoi malinky. I'm like, how the fuck are those even remotely similar? I can understand, you know, if they shared any letters, but they really don't. So what the fuck? Like, no, bolshoi, big gimme. So I did not want my trip out of the country to be as nightmarish as the trip into the country. So I was like, Sergey, can you call me a cab? Because apparently you have to call cabs like super ahead in advance and negotiate the fee and whatever. I don't care. I was like, get me the fuck out of this country. Like, can you call me a cab and make sure that I get to the airport at 2 o'clock in the morning for my flight that's out of here at 6 o'clock in the morning? Because I swear to God, I'm not missing this shit. And he's like, it's fine. I used to work for a taxi cab company. I make sure you get there on time. Okay, good. You know, let's leave it at that. We're done. We don't have to talk anymore. Thank you, Sergey. Shut it. But he's like, in Russia is custom. On last trip before you leave, you spend the night awake in kitchen talking, so you can say goodbye properly. I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm leaving at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I guess I can do this. You know, it means I'll be awake for another 52-hour trip again. But whatever. You know, I'll try to be nice, since I have not been nice to you at all, because you're a jerk. So. We stay up the night before. He comes home, mind you. He had a 3-piece suit that he wore every night. I don't know if he worked at all. I have no idea. Every day he would wash this 3-piece suit, and every night he would go out in it. And every morning he would come home stinking drunk and looking like shit in his 3-piece suit so that he could wash it and go out and do it again. Alright, sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties. Anyway, He comes home one night looking worse than usual, which I don't know how is possible. But you know, and I was actually motivated. I was like, are you okay? Because you look like shit. And he's like, well, I think I get drunk and fall in canal, but I can't remember, so I'm fine. I'm like, dude, the canals, even though St. Petersburg is like 5 feet above sea level, it's still a 5-foot drop from the street into the canal. How would you not know that you fell into a canal while fully dressed in a 3-piece suit? Whatever. Anyway, Russians. So anyway, the night before I leave comes, and I stay awake, and I'm sitting in the kitchen, which is foul, but that's a whole nother story. Sitting in the kitchen, and we're talking badly, back and forth, and he's telling me about how he's been to the United States before, because he's such a experienced world traveler or something, and he found a guru there, an Indian guru, okay, who taught him all about his spirit animal, which was like a badger or snake or, you know, some random animal that you find in America. And he's like, oh, it's my spirit animal, so I need to go back to America and find it. I'm like, well, you have fun with that. I wish you luck in getting back to America. He's like, well, it would be easier if I had American wife. I'm just like, dude, no. I'm totally not interested. I have no desire to have Russian anything. Good luck. And, you know, by that time, he'd been talking long enough that it was like 1:30, and I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, just let's see time. I gotta go. I'll go stand out on the street and wait for the taxi cab just to make sure I don't miss him, because I don't want to hang out with you anymore. And he's following me the entire way out the door, and he's like, you have email? I will write you in America. I'm like, no, I'm not really big into computers. Lie. He's like, you have Facebook? Facebook was like just getting big in Russia. He's like, you have Facebook? I write you on Facebook. I'm like, no, I'm never on a computer. I just don't do computers. He's like, oh, you have phone in America. I call you. I'm just like, dude, fuck no. I don't want to talk to you in real life. Why would I want to talk to you on the phone? He's like, well, you have address? I write you post. I write you post. And I was like, no, I live in a cave, dude. I live in a cave. I eat worms, and I don't ever go to the supermarket, so I couldn't even pick up a letter at the supermarket. You know, I don't have a post office box. Just don't talk to me. I'm standing on the sidewalk with my suitcase in hand. Dude, Sergey is like right next to me, going like, you have any, I come with you to America. I get phone, I get plane ticket right now. I'm like, all right, I've just turned off my English. I only speak French now. Don't talk to me. And finally, the taxi guy pulls up, and I'm just like, airport now. And fortunately, the taxi driver, like, I don't know if I just gave off an air of, like, don't fuck with me, or don't talk to, or I'm crazy American. Who knows what I gave off an air of, but he put my suitcase in the car, and he got in, and he was like, airport? And I was like, da. And he drove, like, as fast as he could, and Russians are crazy-ass drivers. Oh my god. Wrong side of the road, ignore stoplights, ignore things like, you know, lanes. Whatever, we can just ride down the middle. Like, I didn't even care. Like, at this rate, we're gonna get to the airport in 15 minutes instead of 30, and I will be 2 hours and 45 minutes early instead of 2.5 hours. I don't care, just get me the fuck out of this country. Oh my god. And I did. I got out of the country. Like, the flight to Moscow went well, and the flight to New York went well, and the flight back to Colorado went well, and as soon as I landed, I had arranged for a friend to pick me up. As soon as I landed, I walked up to my friend, and I grabbed him by the shirt, and I was like, talk English to me! And he did, thank God. And that was the last time I went to Russia. And this time, because I'm leaving in a couple weeks, hopefully, to go back to Russia. I know the language. We are staying in dorm rooms at a university. They are feeding us. We are not doing anything cultural, and I have no idea where the fuck Sergey is, and I have no desire to know. So, hopefully it will go better.